Indianapolis Colts fans, I don't know about you, but it feels like we are constantly walking a tightrope with Jonathan Taylor's legendary workload. Bleacher Report's Mo Moton is suggesting a potential trade that would send Commanders running back Jerome Ford to Indianapolis for a late-round 2027 draft pick. Adding a proven pass-catching weapon like Ford is exactly the kind of move that could save Taylor from burnout while finally giving Shane Steichen the versatile depth he desperately craves. And honestly, the more details come out, the harder it is to ignore what is going on behind the scenes. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop your name and city in the comments so I know who is repping the Horseshoe today. Let's get into it. The Indianapolis Colts are currently facing a pivotal debate regarding the future of our star running back, Jonathan Taylor, following a Bleacher Report proposal from Mo Moton that suggests a strategic trade. As a three-time Pro Bowler and former first-team All-Pro, Taylor remains the centerpiece of our offense, recently logging 323 rushing attempts for 1,585 yards and 20 total touchdowns. Despite his monumental production, the physical toll on a premier back is impossible to ignore, and fans are understandably protective of a player who has carried this franchise for years. This is where it gets real. Moton argues that the Colts should trade a late-round 2027 draft pick to the Washington Commanders to acquire Jerome Ford. Ford, who signed a one-year deal worth $1,265 this offseason, spent 4 seasons with the Cleveland Browns, where he proved his worth by totaling 813 rushing yards and 319 receiving yards during the 2023 campaign. While our current depth chart includes Seth McGowan and DJ Giddens, neither provides the proven pass-catching reliability that Ford brings to the table. For us, the emotional reaction is mixed because while we recognize the need to preserve Taylor for a long championship window, trading away future assets for a backup is a move that splits the room. We have not seen a true receiving threat out of the backfield since the days of Nyheim Hines and Zach Moss. So adding a player like Ford could fundamentally change how head coach Shane Steichen utilizes our personnel. Yet, we have to ask ourselves a difficult question regarding our front office strategy. If Chris Ballard decides to pull the trigger on this hypothetical deal, are we truly addressing the health of our star, or are we simply masking a lack of confidence in our younger developing roster players? The most pressing reality for our front office right now is that Jonathan Taylor's immense workload is becoming a ticking clock on his career longevity that Chris Ballard can no longer ignore. After Taylor led the league last year with 323 rushing attempts and 20 total touchdowns, the team is forced to confront the harsh truth that star running backs rarely sustain that pace for long. This situation mirrors the historical challenges we faced when managing the physical demands placed on past workhorse backs, where reliance on a single superstar often left our depth chart vulnerable once the inevitable fatigue set in. And here's why that's a big deal. Bringing in a capable veteran like Jerome Ford from the Washington Commanders would immediately modernize our offensive diversity. Ford is currently under contract for 1 year at $1,262,500, a bargain that provides immediate insurance without compromising our future salary cap flexibility. While Shane Steichen clearly values the bruising style of our current rotation, he likely recognizes behind closed doors that our current depth options lack the proven receiving profile needed to keep defenses honest. Ford brings legitimate experience from his 2023 campaign with the Cleveland Browns, where he recorded 319 receiving yards and 813 rushing yards across 12 starts. If we can secure him for a late-round 2027 draft pick, it represents a calculated gamble by the front office to protect our most valuable asset while simultaneously upgrading our third down efficiency. The coaching staff is clearly looking for a versatile weapon who can alleviate pressure on Taylor, ensuring our star remains fresh for the final stretch of the season. By diversifying our backfield options now, the organization is making a strategic pivot to prioritize long-term stability over the short-term convenience of relying on a single bell cow runner to carry the entire offensive load every single Sunday. As we look at the current state of our backfield, it becomes clear that relying solely on Jonathan Taylor is a dangerous game that could jeopardize his longevity and our playoff aspirations. Protecting our superstar is the main priority for Chris Ballard this season, because we have seen too often how quickly a heavy workload can diminish a talent of that caliber. And honestly, the proposal from Bleacher Report to acquire Jerome Ford from the Commanders for a late-round 2027 draft pick offers a perfect solution. Ford is currently buried on the depth chart in Washington, yet he brings proven production from his 4 years with the Browns, including a strong 2023 campaign with 813 rushing yards and 9 total touchdowns. Adding him would immediately provide the Colts with a capable pass catcher to complement our current rotation of Seth McGowan and DJ Giddens, giving Shane Steichen a more versatile chess piece to utilize on third downs. This shift in personnel would be a game changer for our upcoming schedule, allowing us to stay aggressive against tough defensive fronts without burning out Taylor by mid-November. By spreading the carries, we keep our offense unpredictable for division rivals who are currently scouting our reliance on a single primary rusher. Securing a reliable secondary option makes us far more resilient for a deep postseason run, ensuring that we are not left vulnerable if injuries or fatigue arise during the coldest months of the year. It is a low-risk, high-reward move that addresses our biggest roster need while keeping our championship window wide open. With Ford in the fold, our offensive identity becomes deeper, more balanced, and ultimately much more difficult for any opponent to contain as we fight to reclaim our place at the top of the conference standings. The argument for trading a late-round 2027 draft pick to the Washington Commanders for Jerome Ford centers on immediate utility. Our star back Jonathan Taylor recorded 323 rushing attempts and 20 touchdowns last season, but even the best athletes benefit from a breather. Ford brings versatility as a pass catcher, a trait currently missing from our depth chart of Seth McGowan and DJ Giddens. By adding a proven commodity like Ford, who set career best with 813 rushing yards and 319 receiving yards in 2023, we could finally preserve Taylor for those critical late-season games. Think about it this way. Having a legitimate outlet option out of the backfield forces opposing defenses to respect the entire field rather than just keying in on our primary runner. However, the downside remains that Ford is currently buried on the depth chart behind Jackery, Krosky, Merritt, and Rashad White, raising fair questions about his consistency or potential decline. Bleacher Report analyst Mo Moen suggests this deal is a low-risk move, but we must wonder if shifting assets for a backup is truly wise given our existing roster needs. While Moton highlights Ford as the logical solution, other league observers might argue that trusting our current internal development remains a safer path than dealing away future draft capital. Here's where I land on this proposal. While the idea of a veteran presence like Ford is appealing, I am somewhat skeptical of the urgency. We have invested heavily in our current guys, and giving up picks for a player who hasn't taken a snap for his current team feels like a reactionary gamble rather than a calculated strategy. We need to be careful with our long-term resources, even when the immediate upgrade looks tempting on paper. We should wait to see if our existing personnel can step up before we rush into any trade deadline maneuvers. The long-term vision for our franchise under the guidance of Chris Ballard remains focused on sustainability. And this potential trade for Jerome Ford aligns perfectly with that objective. By securing a reliable veteran, the organization is acknowledging the reality that Jonathan Taylor cannot carry this entire workload forever without risking his health. And I cannot stress this enough. The move to trade a late-round 2027 draft pick to the Washington Commanders is a small price to pay to ensure our star running back stays fresh for a deep postseason run. Fans should feel a sense of cautious optimism heading into this season, as this addition would finally provide the pass-catching dynamic we have lacked in the backfield. By balancing the offensive load, we protect our most valuable asset while simultaneously making the offense more versatile and harder for opposing defenses to predict. Adding a player who has already proven his worth with the Cleveland Browns brings much-needed experience that younger players like DJ Giddens and Seth McGowan simply do not possess at this stage of their careers. This strategic depth is exactly what separates championship contenders from teams that fizzle out once the calendar turns to December. We have spent years hoping for a reliable secondary option to emerge, and this proposal from Bleacher Report offers a concrete path to achieving that stability immediately. If the front office pulls the trigger on this deal, would you feel comfortable trusting Jerome Ford to handle significant third down passing duties alongside Jonathan Taylor this year? If you enjoyed the video, do not forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. For the Shoe, I'll see you in the next one. Meanwhile, make sure to hit that bell notification icon so you never miss an update regarding all the latest news, analysis, and exclusive team content.